Spire.
Welcome back to Starting Now. I'm your host, Jeff Sarris. This is the show where I talk to entrepreneurs to reveal the unexpected paths to entrepreneurship. Today, my guest is Tom Buck. Tom is a high school teacher turned YouTuber, and just in the last year, his channel has grown immensely. He's been doing killer work on YouTube for a long time, and there was something about 2020 and people getting online and trying to start their own channels, trying to learn about camera gear and all of these things that he educates you on, where it was the tipping point. It was the thing that really helped him grow, and now he's in the process of making his side hustle into more of a business. So we talked about all that in this episode, along with the awesome story about how he met his wife actually through YouTube. So without further ado, my conversation with Tom Buck. You were teaching today, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've been online all year, so
yeah. So
that's why we had to do 3:00.
Oh yeah,
my time.
So how has that been? I mean, that it's such a drastic shift, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, now we've been doing it for a year, so it's got pros and cons. I mean, it's obviously like in a lot of ways, it's like the worst parts of teaching because it's none of the in-person interaction and the like, hey, look, I'm helping and seeing an impact. It's just sort of staring at blank squares all day. But there are, chances for still making those connections. And then also it's obviously the safer option. Plus there's like zero discipline problems because it's all virtual. So you can just mute somebody. There's no restroom passes. Oh, I love it. I haven't written a restroom pass in a year.
Nice. I love that that's like the first thing that comes to mind.
That was like such a huge chunk of my life was just like bathroom passes. And it's like, I don't care, but y'all do bad things in the bathroom. So now I have to care about the bathroom. So now it's not an issue.
Yeah. Do you have to worry about people actually paying attention and being there? Because obviously you can't really police that.
Yeah, I mean, I just put it, luckily, like what I teach is a career tech ed program. So a lot of it is geared towards professionalism and personal accountability. And, I'm pretty upfront with like, yeah, I know you can log in and walk away and leave me just talking to an empty room. But at the end of the day, there's stuff that needs to get done and things that need to get turned in. And it's like, you either do or you don't. And it's going to be really obvious when you don't.
Yeah. So has it actually maybe alleviated some of your post classroom time work in terms of like homework and things? Like how has that affected it?
Yeah. Because I was that thing where like in education, there's like, it's cool to be a martyr. And everybody kind of outdoes each other with like, I got here at 6 a.m. Well, I got here at 5:50. I got here before the janitor. Like, it's just sort of, and it's like you're all not winning because that doesn't work. And I did that for so long, go in hours before school started, stay late, 10-hour minimum day, oftentimes 12, 15 hours. And it's like, you feel like I'm doing something good and I'm putting in extra stuff, but you're never going to be finished with everything. And the benefits like really stop. I don't know, what is it, like a return, diminishing returns. There's definitely diminishing returns when it comes to that extra time, and so you just end up burning yourself out. And because basically all my work is at home now, it's like I have to be really clear about stopping when it's time to stop, because otherwise the line is so blurry. So it's like I just stick to my exact contract hours, and I don't do anything beyond that. Like I will not check email. I will not grade an assignment. I won't do anything. Like I've got my contract hours. Since I'm at home, 4 out of the 5 days of the week, there's not like the distractions or even just being on campus. It's like it's going to take me walking all the way across to the office to check a mailbox, to then somebody talks to you and then you walk back, and now that's 20 minutes of like a prep period. Like that stuff doesn't happen anymore. So it's actually a little easier to be more efficient with your time. Plus the workload, I mean, the amount of work you can actually assign is so much less than what I would actually be doing in the classroom to begin with.
Okay, so is that just because you're not really there with them to work on it then?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little of both, and it's especially because I'm doing tech stuff. not all of I teach a Title I school, so it's like really, not a wealthy student population.
Okay.
Mostly like free and reduced lunch, and the only guaranteed access to equipment that they have is a Chromebook because the district provides them. Some kids have computers and some kids have cameras and all that stuff, and some of them have been able to like rent them out from me, even though like from the program, even though we're not on campus. But for the most part, I have to make sure everything we do can be done on a Chromebook. If you've ever worked on a Chromebook, it's like very limiting.
Yeah,
so,
that is really tight.
Yeah, so we're going to the basics. Luckily, most of them do have phones, and phones have a lot of options. So that does that's like my lifesaver. But yeah, it's really just more of the basics, but something where normally I would always have 2 or 3 assignments and projects, and we're bouncing back and forth and all that. It's literally like we will just be working on one thing for 4 weeks. And that's it. We're just going to do piece by piece every day, like really simple, that kind of thing. But, it's still been, there's some students who thrive under it and some students who don't. But that's the same as regular school anyway.
Oh, yeah. And do you see this being maybe more normal moving forward? Like when things go back to like quote unquote normal.
Right.
Like, yeah, what do you...
Part of me hopes, and I've heard other teachers say this too, because there's some teachers and there's some students who are really thriving with like online school for a lot of different reasons, and some totally aren't. And so a lot of people are actually hopeful that there'll be, like, it could just be kind of a cool alternative. Like maybe each school or each district also has an online school. And for the people who just do really well in that environment, you do that. And then everybody else does the traditional stuff. I kind of hope that's the case because there is a lot more flexibility, definitely for students who deal with, I don't know, health issues, anxiety, mental issues. It can really be like much more stress relieving to just the virtual thing. And, I don't know. There's a lot of kids that would never normally talk out during class that will participate in a chat or something
that's
like
really
that.
good.
Or, and they're good. Their kids are so much better now in the past year of like using email, which is so basic, but it was something they just didn't really do before, and now it's so much easier to send a student an email and they write back, or they know if they have a question they email you, and like that I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just seems more effective all around. I mean, my girlfriend actually taught a college level class. It's her first ever course that she taught.
Oh, really?
She's and this year she taught it. So like we set up a little area for her like office to shoot from, and it was a lot of fun to do it. But it's interesting because that's her first experience there. Yeah. Where I was really wondering what that shift felt like for someone, because you've been doing it for about a decade.
Yeah, this is my 11th year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, how does your girlfriend like teaching adults?
She enjoyed it. I mean, she had never taught before, so she doesn't have a teaching degree. So it's really the first time. But yeah, she really enjoyed it. It was funny because there was very little student interaction, which like just normal sort of college stuff. Like you have the interaction, but it's not a ton. But she felt actually like really emotional at the last, I almost want to say episode, but the last class, to be like, she said, she's like, oh, this is the final sign off. And then she actually started to well up a little bit. And it was like, oh, that's funny. Like it's unexpected, but it's still that experience you get tied in. And I'm sure by the end of the year, you're like, oh, these kids are, I mean, maybe after a few years, you start to get more used to it. But I'm sure, especially early on, you might have been like tied to these kids a little bit.
That part really never goes away, especially because for most of my time, I've been teaching digital media, which is a multi-year thing. So it's a lot of times the same kids for 3 or 4 years. When they leave, it's like we've been together for up to 4 years. And that includes not just classes, but like projects and events, and there's traveling. And it's like you really, they really like have an impact on actually affecting the program. Like there's stuff we do and equipment and software we use simply because students like brought it in and they shaped it, and then they leave, and it's, you get into those routines where like 3 years, every day for 3 years, there's someone who's going to like come in and say hi during lunch and do this. And it's like, oh, then they're just gone.
Yeah.
And I definitely, I think it must have been my probably my second year teaching, if not my first, where I literally just cried as I said goodbye. And I was like, you know what, whatever. So that just became the thing of like, I'll just cry in front of teenagers every June and whatever.
Uh-huh. That is funny. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's extremely just common and just the norm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it is.
But yeah, so how would you describe who you are then? So you would be a teacher, obviously, but you're also a YouTuber, you're a drummer, you do a lot of different things. What do you generally, how would you generally portray yourself?
I mean, I'm just like, I guess I am a person who likes creative endeavors, and all my music stuff is very much hobby. I've been doing it for a long time, but that's like such a hobby thing. I have like zero like professional ambition for that or anything. It's just purely for fun. Even though like the room I'm in is mostly taken up by instruments, it's like it's not the main thing. So yeah, I mean I make a lot of videos, and then I teach people how to do audio and video. Like it's basically like an AV club, but I just really love doing that professionally. And lately I've been I always like said like I'm a high school digital media teacher and I make YouTube videos, and I kind of have been like flipping those lately, just because I feel more effective with like the YouTube platform in a lot of ways, and that's kind of I feel like I have more control over it in a lot of ways too. So that's kind of I've been putting that first, since it's more my thing, and then teacher second, because at the end of the day you're still working for someone else, and it's not totally my own thing.
Definitely. And your growth on YouTube, that's fairly recent, isn't it? I mean, because I know you were going like when did you start the channel? I guess we should start there.
Yeah, sure. I started in June of 2017, uploaded my first video in July of 2017.
Okay, nice. And then over the last 3 years now, did you just cross, was it 50,000 subscribers?
Yeah. Yeah, at the beginning of January, it's 50,000.
Okay, nice. And congratulations.
Just ridiculous.
Oh, it's amazing, right?
You.
I mean, that many people are tuning in, and they're tuning into your live streams. Like I watched the one from the other day, did. And I mean, you've crafted something that is engaging. Like you're extremely likable. I mean, everything you do visually, everything is awesome. And then the content obviously is excellent. Like everything, just all the pieces fall together.
It's been so weird, and it's like YouTube is weird because if you've ever seen that video about, I think I said this on a live stream, but if you've ever seen that video about star sizes, where it's like a YouTube video that will pop up like a viral video, it'll just be in your recommended like twice a year.
Oh wait, is it the one that pulls out?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And it shows like, it starts with like the Earth, and it's like, here's the Earth, and then it shows the Earth next to Jupiter, and Jupiter is so much bigger. But then it shows Jupiter next to the sun, and the sun is so much bigger. And then it shows the sun next to another star, and that star. And it keeps doing that until you get to like the biggest star ever that is just, the Earth would be barely a pinpoint. And then that star is dwarfed by another one that is like 50 times bigger, and you just feel minuscule. In a way, that's kind of how YouTube numbers work, for better or worse. Because, when you start a channel, you're like, I just want, 5 people, or I really like want to get to 100 so I can have a custom URL, because it's impossible to link your pre-custom URL, which is just a string of robot numbers. And then 100 feels impossible, and then you get it, and then 1,000 feels impossible, and then a couple thousand or 10,000 was like just an absurd idea. And then you get there and you're like, oh, and then I try to avoid it, and I recommend avoiding it, but I think human nature will make you play the comparison game, and you'll see like, wow, like I hit this milestone, that's amazing. And then you might talk to someone who's like, yeah, that's what I do every month. Like the thing that you've done in 3 years, I do that every month. Not that anyone would ever say it that way, but well, yeah, you just kind of look and you're like, wow, yeah, you're, I have some friends who have larger channels, and like literally if we go 2 weeks without talking, in that amount of time, they will have grown by my entire channel size.
It is that like, snowball effect though. It's like not necessarily, and it's not like an issue with anything you're doing, but it is amazing because
there's so many variables. It's just insane.
Yeah,
but
it all ties together.
It's also, I mean, it's really important. Like the thing that I am super grateful for is the quality of the community on my channel, because like one, it's so much bigger than I ever could have imagined it would be. But also, the more I've gotten to know people and the more like I do, live streams or whatever, the thing that I love is it seems like the majority are people who actually actively make something themselves, whether it's a video channel or podcast or something. Like they're in it and they're figuring it out, and my videos are helping them in some way along the way. But I love that. It's not a passive audience. It's like super active, and that is just really fun to be a part of. And so in that regard, it's like the numbers really don't matter because that's just a group I want to be. I don't care. That's a group I want to be a part of no matter how many people are there. And then it really, the more you engage with your community, you start remembering that, like, yes, every time the little number goes boop up one more, that's actually a person. Mm-hmm. And that person is doing something, and that person, there's a whole life tied to that person and whole perspective. And remembering that is very, very important when you're like, I only got this many now. But that's actually a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a tipping point that you feel like maybe a moment in time where you saw this shift to the growth?
Yeah, I mean, definitely 2020. For everything that 2020 was, that was definitely the tipping point there, which I think, like, I feel terrible saying this, but I think it really kind of was the pandemic because so much of my content is like do it yourself, set up your home studio, set up your own camera setup, set up your own audio, your own podcasting setup. And when everybody ended up being stuck at home for so long, so many people turned to like, well, now I gotta, I want to have a better streaming setup for my work calls, and I want to start a podcast, and I want to dive into that. And my videos were just like, it was a library of stuff that was just sort of sitting there. And I think that really, like, it was just, it was helpful at the time. And then, once people get that bug and they start doing that, they usually don't give it up when they really get into it. And so it just kind of grew and grew from there. And that seems to be, that really seems to be like what tipped it. Just 2020, spring of 2020 to the end. It just like, I'd never seen anything like that before.
Oh yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, because what we do is help people start businesses. So we saw the same exact thing. We help people get online, help people build their business. It's fed into, actually, it's not even really just this getting started space, because one of our platforms is kidney stone diet. And that also saw a big uptick early in this year, where people are at home, people are addressing their needs, I think it is. Oh. So I think it might be finding the solutions to problems that maybe they didn't have the time or the opportunity to go after before.
That makes sense. I mean, that's a good thing.
Oh, definitely.
A really good thing.
Yeah.
I hope that kind of stuff sticks around, like
absolutely
prioritization of self-care. For sure. I'd love that to be a more permanent thing in our world.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So YouTube is a big part of your life. And I saw that Heather, who is your wife, you actually met through YouTube?
Yeah, we did.
So what is that story?
So that story, it's pretty funny, actually. It's why I can never hate on the YouTube algorithm, which is, people in YouTube love to talk about like the algorithm, it messed up my channel. But it was literally, it was spring, summer of 2017. That was around the time I was starting my channel. That was really my, like, I don't know what you call like eat, pray, love year of like, I'm just, all the things I didn't think I could do, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to like, I just stop being in my own way, really. And so part of that was I wanted to start up my YouTube channel. I was like revamping my program that I teach at work. I had booked this trip to Iceland for the next year for 2018 because I'd always wanted to go. And like, I never had anyone who wanted to go. And I was like, why do I need anyone else? And then, which was funny because when I booked that trip, the guy I called to book it was like, his name was Tom Buck, and it was super confusing.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I took it as a good sign. I was like, okay. And yeah, we had to like communicate a bunch, and it was very confusing for like months. But anyway, so that was kind of what I was doing. And part of that was I'd started my YouTube channel, and a big impetus to that was at the start of that year, or maybe the year before, my students introduced me to Casey Neistat, this is not an uncommon YouTube story of like Casey being inspiring to people. And I just fell down that rabbit hole so hard. And of course, 2016, 2017, if you're watching Casey, you're not going to go look up a boosted board.
Oh, yeah.
And I need this electric skateboard. And I was like, this is completely ridiculous. It's expensive. It's unnecessary. I'm not like a skater or anything. And then I was like, you know what? That's why I should do it. Because it's like a thing that I'm interested in for no reason, just for the joy of it. And so I was looking at boosted board reviews, and there was one from this girl. And the reason I clicked on it was because the whole video was her waiting. Most of the video was her waiting for the UPS guy to drop off the board. And she's like in her house or her apartment, like anxiously waiting and being nervous, which I have been in that role many times. And then the UPS guy comes and she plays it off super cool, like, oh yeah, cool, thanks. Like I wasn't waiting here all day, which I fully understand. Like I have I've stood, like at the peephole, and then the person comes and it's like, oh yeah, like I've even done the thing, this is embarrassing, but I've done the thing where they ring the doorbell and I'll like wait a couple seconds and then open the door. I wasn't just standing here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I love that. Like that was really endearing to me. And then the YouTube just recommended, the next video was one where she was talking about she'd quit her job to essentially do like digital media advocacy and education. And I was like, whoa, that's not phrases I hear in the real world. And then there was also a video she did where she's like, here's my Iceland packing trip. So it was like,
wow,
the like Iceland, boosted boards, and digital media, which is a very just unique combo. And I had literally never left a YouTube comment before. And so I left her a comment that was like, hi, like, I just want you to know, like, I'm a digital media teacher. The thing that you're doing is amazing. Like, I can tell you it's important, yada, yada. She has the comment. I forget exactly what it says, but she definitely has it saved. And then she didn't reply, but I didn't know how YouTube comments work. And I was like, maybe I need to send it as an email for some reason. And so I sent it as an email, and she finally like gave in and replied. And then we talked a little bit and I explained what I do. And when I described my program as like, we lived a couple hours apart, but when I described my program as what it is, it kind of sounds like I'm lying when I'm like, yeah, we have like these studios and all this gear and this is what we do. And she was like, I would really like to come see this actually working, because it was like almost like a thing she was dreaming of in her previous job when she worked at a school. And I was like, yeah, it was prior to like the school year starting. I was like, yeah, you can come out, I'll give you a tour, explain how everything works. And we just like hit it off immediately. And then we like it took us a few months to just admit. She would come in and like do like workshops with my students, and of course all the kids are like, they like each other, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, it's not a thing, it's all just professional. And then eventually after like several months you're like, yeah, we seem to be a pretty good fit.
Yeah, definitely. That is so awesome. Like I love that. Like YouTube has, I mean, arguably Casey was a matchmaker. If he sparked the boosted board, because yeah, I just love that story.
Oh, there's so many like obscure reasons why we should have never met, but I mean, you can trace it all the way back to that. We've literally thought of times, like especially when we were engaged and going to get married, we were like, should we make like a little video and like tweet it to him or something? And they're like, yeah, he'll probably never see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, he actually played a huge role in it.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because like with him, for example, I mean, he's been doing this forever. And like, I think when he did the first Bites video is when I first found him. So I'd been following along for a long time, but like I've never interacted with him. He has no idea that I'm watching. Like you said, like each tick is a real person out there.
Right.
I don't comment on anything. I don't do anything, but like the amount of impact someone can have, like you, in the stuff you do, not just for like the purchasing, but for the education. Like you can you can see the students directly, but you're reaching such a more broad audience. It's amazing how much you can accomplish through platform.
It's insane. It's like magic.
Yeah, it really is. So in terms of, because I saw that you're working on sort of a business side of things too. Currently, do you have a business model in place for YouTube? Sort of like, what's the business of YouTube for Tom Buck?
Yeah, so this is something that I actually am getting more and more, I don't know if passionate or vocal is the word. I want to do a whole podcast episode about this, but this is like not spoken about, because so here's how I feel. I'm having a lot of thoughts at once. There's a lot of people that want to have YouTube channels, and they feel that YouTube is really saturated because there's billions of accounts, there's hundreds of hours of content uploaded every minute, and it's just like, where am I going to fit in that? And if you just want to make content for the sake of making something, it doesn't matter, right? Because if you just put yourself out there and you don't care if anyone watches it, who cares how crowded it is? I definitely don't recommend starting YouTube to make revenue. But if you're looking at it as like, okay, a serious endeavor, even just growing a channel, a zero revenue generating channel, the amount of people who are there, yes, is huge. It's a significant percentage of the Earth's population. But the amount of those people who are then going to actually create something is way smaller. Those people who actually create something good, way, way smaller. And then the people who will keep going, like I think after I did my first 40 or 50 videos, I had like 26 subscribers. It's like, are you going to make 50 videos and see very little growth and then make 200 more videos? Or are you going to make 4 videos and go like, yeah, I'm tired now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it this weekend. And so it sort of becomes this self-selecting group of people who will put in that time and energy. And what I discovered, at least, is I had no intention of making money off of YouTube at all. If anything, I was kind of against it. And as time went on, it just sort of organically started generating revenue, which was cool. And then, it's something like once you make over $600 a year, that's when it pops up on your taxes, at least in the US anyway. And at first you're making like, oh, look, $50. Cool. This is neat. And then it was like $600. I was like, oh, now this is like an extra thing. And then I started.
This is AdSense specifically?
This was actually my first revenue was Amazon affiliate stuff. Because I didn't want to put ads on my video. But the nature of the content that I make, I just need to link to stuff because people are always going to ask, what's the camera? What's the this? If I talk about something, they're going to want to know. And I originally was just linking to the product page, and then I learned about affiliate stuff, and like literally there's no downside.
Yeah.
Like I get a percentage of the sale if they click through. It doesn't raise the price, it doesn't do anything negative for them, and I don't have to spend time in the video like promoting it, So it's like win-win-win in every way. And after like the 5th person was like, I bought this really expensive lens because of you, I was like, maybe I should. That's like $10,000 in lenses. Maybe I should get it. You're telling me I get like 4% of that? I'll take it. And that was kind of where I started doing that. And then I just branched out. I think at this point, my channel has like 10 or 11 revenue streams coming through it, different affiliate programs, plus AdSense, plus, like consulting thing. It's just, there's so many different ones. And then last year, my wife and I formed an LLC.
Nice.
And then we had to open up like business accounts. So the money goes into the business accounts. And then we had to get like a payroll thing so we could pay ourselves, which is a massive undertaking to like figure all that stuff out.
Oh yeah, from nothing.
And nobody really talks about it. And it's crazy how many people you'll see on YouTube who are just kind of like, yeah, I'm just hanging out, making videos. Oh, geez. And it's like, they'll never talk about the insane like business strategy. Not that they have to, but I think for a lot of people, they can go like, oh, look how simple and easy it is. And they can potentially get really far and not do the things they need to do to set themselves up to handle it well. And that's kind of what I discovered just along the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's a big problem too, because I think when some people grow really quickly, say, suddenly maybe not the first year, but the first year they're making serious money.
Yeah.
And they're not maybe paying quarterly taxes. Or estimated taxes. Maybe they're not really saving the money because it's like, oh, this is amazing. I've never had this much money. But then when that end of year comes around and it's like, oh no, that I owe a lot. I owe 30, 40% of my income.
No money.
Yeah. That is a big thing. And so that's sort of like where we live, and what we do is we live behind the scenes. So we're helping people sort of navigate those things because we've been doing this for a little over a decade now. So, but yeah, like there are platforms that we work with that it's like, oh no, this is that one person. It's these 2 people. And it's like, well, it is, but there is sort of a team behind them too. It's just me and my business partner. Like everything is solo, like minimalist business just between the 2 of us. But it's stuff that actually, it's not simple. It's not something that anyone talks about.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I always shy away from sponsored content. I've actually only ever done one actually sponsored video where like I had to say this video is sponsored by, and that was late 2019. I did one for Epidemic Sound, one of the royalty-free music things, and I like Epidemic. I use them; they're great. And the reason I did it was because they're really nice people to work with, but also because I really wanted to learn like how this works. There's a contract, there's this. And I was so upfront about like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they were so patient with like, we will walk you through every step of the process. And so I did it mainly just for that experience of like, and I'm so grateful for how patient they were. But that was where they were like, okay, where do we send the payment? And I was like, oh, here's my bank account thing. And they're like, we need your employer identification number. And I was like, no, that's just my personal thing. Like, we don't just send money to personal accounts. You need an employer identification number. And it ended up being a big deal. And they were like, like they figured out a way to make it work at the time. But they were like, if you want to keep doing more of this and you're thinking of incorporating at any point, this would be the time to do it. And I was so blown away because I was thinking, well, I've seen Epidemic ads on channels that are my size. My channel at that time was maybe like 7,000 subscribers. I was like, I've seen people my size doing this, people a little bigger, even people smaller. You're telling me all of them have an LLC? And the answer was, yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they absolutely did. And in the photo video niche where I kind of fall, a lot of people have like production companies. So they've been doing client work for years. And so when their YouTube channels take off, they're able to just use their existing business to handle that revenue. So it's not that they had to necessarily start from scratch, but they had something in place. And I was just oblivious to this. And I felt so like frustrated that I didn't even know, because I was just so happy to see the channel grow and this and that. And I didn't know that I had been missing out on a really important part of setting myself up to be sustainable. And that was kind of frustrating to figure out. And so that's been being more vocal about that, or at least more open about that, is something I've been trying to do more lately.
Yeah. So are you, do you have some videos about that yet, or do you plan on putting those out?
More podcast stuff, because
Okay.
I know that, the people who watch my channel, they're not there to watch those videos, at least currently. But, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm very happy to work on some podcast episodes where I can at least explain, this is what I'm doing. I could come back in 6 months and go like, here's everything I did wrong, but at least this is what I'm doing. This is how it's working right now. And this is why I'm doing it this way. And then other people can just, build off of that or not.
Yeah. Despite not having an immense amount of experience with that, I think it's hugely valuable actually where you're at, because you are, I talked about this with Daniel Vassallo. So you're just a step or so beyond, maybe not just a step, now you're a little further, but as long as you're just a couple steps ahead of the person you're sort of guiding along the way, you're actually much more relatable. Because if you're like, 10 years ago, I set up this LLC, this is what I learned and how you did it. It becomes so much harder to really connect with someone. So I think it's actually the perfect spot to be educating on that.
Yeah, I mean I've tried to do that. As a teacher, there's plenty of days, especially when I taught English, where like I would teach a lesson I learned that morning. It's like, who remembers gerunds? And then you're like, we have to do a grammar lesson on gerunds, and I'm like, that morning. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know that word anymore. So,
and then the kids come in, and you're like, okay, how do you guys not understand this? I've known it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But the same is kind of true. Like, I mean, even with the content on YouTube, I always I've been, which might be part of what's helped the channel grow, is my like ideal audience is me 6 months ago. So I just think of what was I going through, what was I working on, what would I have questions about 6 months ago, and I kind of just make those videos. And so it is very much like, I just learned this, just figured out, and now I'm sharing it. Learned it, figured out, sharing it. And there could be mistakes in that, because obviously I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. But I think exactly like you said, you're in the person's shoes in a very real way, because it's easy to say like, yeah, you just go set up an LLC. But when you're like, well, you're going to go to the website and it's going to ask this question. The question's not going to make any sense, but this is what the like those kinds of relatability things are pretty important.
Is this your first go around with accounting then for the LLC?
Yeah. I mean, for anything official outside of my own like personal budgets and stuff.
Yeah. So are you going with someone? Are you doing like a TurboTax Quicken? Sort of what's your approach?
We have a payroll company. We're using ADP.
Okay.
Because they were like, they worked with the bank where we opened our business accounts,
Uh-huh.
and they're pretty reasonable in price, and they do all the tax filings for you.
Perfect.
So it's like $40 a month. You can run a payroll. They'll file all the taxes. You just don't have to think about it. I'm totally cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is super easy to like go in and run payroll and everything. My wife and I are the only employees, so that's super simple. We did have everything organized in Notion because my wife's like huge on Notion, but then we moved over to Wave to track all the expenses and categorizations and stuff.
I actually don't know.
Wave is really cool. It was recommended to us. We were looking into it, and then a few people recommended it's free, which is great. And it literally, you just connect your accounts. It keeps track of all the transactions, and then you can go through and recategorize them as you want. I think you could even run payroll through Wave if you sign up for it. So it could be a one-stop shop, but I really like it. It's super easy to use, and it just keeps everything right there. So if you're ever audited or something like that, everything's just kind of squared away in a really neat, organized way.
Yeah, sounds good. So the next step for you with the channel, I heard, is the courses. And what's the plan there? So that would then bring in more revenue, bring in maybe a more, I don't know, maybe more sustainable, ideally, business model. So what are your plans?
Yeah, stability there. So there's a thing in YouTube where I think people might be fatigued about like every channel's like, here's my course. But having been a teacher for 11 years, I kind of feel uniquely prepared to do a course. And I feel like I'm good at breaking down, I'm good at making lessons. I've built curriculum. I've written curriculum, like real curriculum. I feel like I can do that really well. Marketing and selling it, not great at, but luckily my wife is. And so that was something where it's like, I know I could just essentially make some of this stuff and post it for free on YouTube. But the beauty, I think at least, having not officially done it yet, of the course is you have a dedicated group of people who are paying to be there. So they're volunteering their time. It's not compulsory like public education is. They have skin in the game because they literally paid to be there. I am obligated to only provide the stuff I said I was going to give. It's like I'm not also a social worker. I'm not also all these other things that come with being a public educator. It's just like, we're here to talk about this. That's what we're focusing on. And I think that putting it in a course lets you circumvent the YouTube thing of having to constantly be worried about like watch time and engagement. And, there might be something I want to add into a video that I kind of feel is important, but also might be a little dry and a little long-winded. And so I'll kind of cut it out. But if you throw that into a course, that's where it's like the people want to know those details. And so not that I wouldn't want the course to be entertaining and useful, but I can focus more on like, hey, yeah, here is, 10 minutes on this one kind of dry thing, but focusing on this is going to make your whole life so much easier. So let's spend time on it. That kind of, like in-depth quality curriculum. Plus then the fact it's like infinitely scalable. It can make $0 or it can make whatever, as many dollars as there are. And that's kind of cool. And
all of the dollars.
And yeah, all of the dollars. But there's no real limit. And then you can expand it. And I was, because my first course that I'm going to do is audio podcast production. So specifically just audio podcasting. The goal is by the time someone goes through the course and finishes it, if they follow the steps, they will have their first episode produced, uploaded, and like literally they just have to click go live or publish on whatever platform they chose. And then they have a workflow in place. So it's like they come with a tangible result, which I think is really important. And then that kind of opens it up. Like lots of people ask about video podcasts. So it's like, cool, I could do like a supplemental thing about video. I could do podcast editing. Then we can jump into live streaming setup. So it's like, gosh, there's so many different, both big and small courses, cornerstone things or supplemental little bits and pieces here that like you could make a whole catalog of stuff that people could choose from and mix and match and combine. And I something about that just really exciting to me, just as an educator, but also then from a business perspective, it's like you could be asleep and someone could buy your course, learn from it, do the thing, and I don't have to do anything other than make it.
Oh yeah, it's the notion of build once, sell twice. And if you're able to make money while you're sleeping and continue to help people, but they're able to come in and all the infrastructure is already there for them to move along self-guided. definitely the way to go. Are you considering doing them as a one-off purchase, as a purchase with a subscription? What have you been thinking?
I'm gonna start pretty simple. So the first one would just be one-off purchase. Probably with like 12-month access. So you have access to the course for a year, and then see from there. I do think that having some kind of live component is really important, but figuring out how to do that in a way that actually works with a human schedule. I'm trying to do that. Like my wife is, she's parts of programs and courses, and there have been times where she's like, I have a thing for my course. The instructor is in Dubai, so I got to get up at 4:30 to be in the class or whatever. And it's like, there's those things where, where's everybody coming from? If for some reason everybody who books it is in England, then I'm going to have to adjust my schedule to be, at weird times. Or if I have a nice variety of people, then I can just go off of, hey, this is the time, and it is the time you want to be there. You got to be there. But I think having a live component in some way at some point in time will be really crucial, and I think it'll kind of give me the fix that I want of like working with people directly, like with students in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is even cycling through. So with, say, the Kidney Stone Diet platform is one of ours. And she, Jill has office hours. So she does a similar thing where it's like throughout the week, there's maybe 3 different, well, no, she does it daily, but obviously you wouldn't want to do daily, but, daily office hours just at different time periods on different days. So people can at least check in for one. And it works really well. And that is a subscription, the way that we do it. Yeah. Because that's sort of a game changer in terms of keeping people in, because they want to be a part of the show, like the live show, premium access. And yeah, like I could see with time, as you're building this, like building more courses and doing things, that subscription component could be huge. It's exciting.
Yeah, that is I like that. That's a good, because it's almost like a live stream, but then we're just kind of focused on this thing here. And I like that because it puts the ball in the customer's court of, you can show up if you want to, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. And it's not like you have to feel guilty.
Oh yeah,
about it.
Well, and you're able to give that.
I like that.
Yeah, that one to many, but in an interactive way. So it's just, there's a little upgrade from there. And then obviously you can have private consulting and things like you do, but yeah, a lot of potential there.
That's probably a good way to begin. And then I know, my wife is the expert on courses and building the stuff, and she knows, like, you have this, and I forget what they call it, but, your low, middle, and high-end thing, and this offers that, and blah, 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 and, like, how to differentiate. So she's handling all the marketing.
Excellent. Well, that is the thing. That is hard.
The content.
Yeah, and you say just, but like those are different brains. It's like you really have to switch over into sort of business mode, content mode. Like essentially you're an entertainer. Like what you do on YouTube is you entertain people and educate. You do that in the classroom too. Oh yeah, you definitely do. like you mentioned, there would be some dry content, but we both know the dry content will be flush with puns. It'll be plenty of silliness in there that makes it fun and engaging. So speaking of live streaming, I feel like we're still at a time, like right now, on sort of the cusp of this like live stream revolution for normal people, non-gamers. And I was curious what you think about sort of where live streaming is and where it could end up.
I think you're 100% right. It's definitely reaching like a critical mass of, it's a normal thing to do. It's been great, actually. So since the pandemic, when we've been online teaching, I've been making content about how to do it, but I've also been, when other teachers or like colleagues will ask me questions, I tell them all the time, like, go watch like a Twitch streamer or something. Not because you're going to play a game, not because you're going to fill your room with RGB lights and stuff, but because of how they interact. Like they're not in a room with other people. They're in the same situation. They're staring at just text on a screen. Sometimes people are there, sometimes they're not, but they make everything interacting, everything engaging. Obviously it's all voluntary and they're dealing with entertaining stuff. It's not like they're trying to teach English text or math or something, but there's so much you can learn from how they handle it. And now carrying that over into other people with all the tools that make it so accessible, not just to not just to stream, but to stream in a really cool way, like multiple camera angles, giving presentations, sharing a talent or a skill, having good audio, good video at the same time, just as a one-person show is like for things that are relatively affordable, it's unreal. And I think as more people are starting to discover that, it's like I was gonna say like a virus or an infection, but it's a terrible analogy to use right now. But it's one of those things, you get the bug and you're like, okay, I want to stream. So then you sit in front of your laptop and you turn on and you're like, okay, this was fun. I'm talking to people, and it's not going to be long before you're like, my sound isn't very good. Maybe I should get a microphone. So then you get your microphone. You're like, oh, my sound is so much better, but wow, this web camera is so like grainy, and these other people have really nice ones. Then you start looking into cameras, and then you have a nice camera and a nice sound. Then you start looking into lights, and then you start thinking, well, my stream is all about, I don't know, drawing, and it'd be really cool if people could see what I'm drawing. So could I put a camera up? Like, it just starts growing, and then you're like, could I play music? Could I put the comments up on screen when people bring them in? Could I have an intro thing? Like, it's not going to happen right away. I think you'll go crazy. Some people try to have like a totally produced show, their first stream ever. Mm-hmm. But it's like, if you give yourself a few months and you just kind of do it regularly, those things, those questions and those needs pop up. And there's never been a more accessible time of being able to solve them. Like, you don't need to be a total AV nerd. You don't need to be an IT person necessarily. And you don't need to be like filthy rich either. It's like, yeah, you want multiple cameras, spend $300, get an A10 mini, and now you can do 4 video sources in your live stream. That's unreal. Mm-hmm. So I think that's only going to grow and grow. And it's kind of like when online video became really accessible through YouTube. Like, you cannot put that genie back in the bottle once it's come out. Like, video is not going to go anywhere. I don't think streaming is going to go anywhere. They're definitely two different muscles. Pre-recorded versus live content are very different in a lot of ways. But I think it's for sure here to stay in some form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it feels like it's still new in a way, because it's different for like the normal people that, like, when I say normal, essentially just non-gamers, because there's musicians who are killing it on Twitch like this past year. And like, there's this one guy from the band Sick Puppies. I don't know if you know that band, but the lead singer,
I've heard of him, yeah.
So the lead singer from that band, all this year, he's started his own lockdown sessions. So on Thursdays, everyone comes together. They're writing songs together in real time. He has so top line writing. So we're writing just the lyrics for the music that he had one of his musician friends produce, who also Twitch streams, also may have recorded that live on Twitch. And it's still in the early days of like that kind of stuff, but seeing how it's grown and seeing how extremely tight-knit the community is, really, like, I feel like I can see that I think there's going to be something fresh in the live streaming space that sort of might hit us all by surprise, because I mean, YouTube is phenomenal. Like, being able to watch your show, watch anyone's show whenever we want, that's killer. But that one-on-one, or not one-on-one, but that direct interaction, it adds an entirely different layer that I think it just connects you with the audience in a different way. So
yeah, I agree 100%. It's still kind of like the Wild West, like, when everyone used to have their like GeoCities website or whatever it was back in the day, and you could just, it was sort of like, this person did this thing and this person did that thing, and everyone was kind of figuring it out together. It's one of the few places on the internet where that is happening again. And I think it does, because no matter how polished your live stream gets, especially if it's just a one-person show, you can't max out past a certain level of, like, there's still going to be mistakes, and there's still going to be approachability, and it's still going to be live, and you can't fully escape that, which is a good thing, because that's what keeps it so connectable and relatable. I am excited to see what people do with streaming in the next few months or years.
Yeah. So for just getting started with streaming, because you switched sort of over, you do your podcasting. I think some of them. You do the one with Heather live, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's a live
Okay.
stream, and then we upload the audio as a podcast.
Yeah. So for someone who might be just starting out, do you have any like tips for live stream? I mean, I know this never ending, but like you just said,
Right.
but maybe like first couple streams where someone should start out.
Sure, yeah, because my first streams, I used to stream weekly on my channel when it was super small. So literally I was streaming for nobody. Sometimes it'd be 0 people there. And I think that's great. And that's a thing that could very realistically happen when you're just starting out streaming. But it's a good way to just sort of get in the reps and figure things out and talk about, have a purpose for your stream. Like you can do, once you have an audience and a community, you can do like, hey, it's a Q&A hangout, and you'll sign on and people just show up and start talking to you. But when you're just starting out, that won't happen yet. So have a purpose, have something you want to share, something behind it. I mean, whatever it might be, like, hey, look at me. It's, I don't know, restringing my guitar live stream. And then you just talk about, look, I'm stringing my guitar. These are strings I use. This is the techniques that I use. And then people will show up and you'll start conversing. But have a purpose to your live stream. I'll show you how to do this thing in Photoshop. So here's the live Photoshop tutorial. Oh, hey, community people. And just start with what you got. The biggest thing I've been really trying to preach lately is work with what you have, which is very cliche advice, but then upgrade as your needs become more apparent. So, you could look at what I have and go like, Tom uses that, so I'll get that. And that might work for you, but it also might not, because I chose to get these things to solve very specific pain points in my workflow. You might have a different situation. And so figuring out, like working with what you got, using it to the max of its ability, and then upgrading, kind of like we talked about with the, you start with your laptop, get the microphone, get the camera, just do that path. And then, more practically, really put in the reps, like keep it consistent. People do really like it when a stream is, especially just starting out, if they know every Monday at this time, this person will go live, because that's how you're going to build the community. And it'll happen sooner than you think, where people will show up. They'll be there every time, might be 2 or 3 people, but it'll be the same 2 or 3 people. And you kind of get to know each other. And it's super important when there are people there. Heather had to teach me this, because when we first met, like before I had ever streamed or anything, she was streaming all the time. She had like a weekly stream. There would be times when we would just be hanging out, and she'd be like, oh, we're going to go live this morning. And she'd just have her phone or whatever. And I had to learn all the basics of like, I would get so caught up in like the comments popping up. And so we'd be talking and I would like interrupt and be like, this person said blah, blah, blah. And so she had to like coach me on, you do want to acknowledge comments, but it's frustrating for people to listen to a thought that's being interrupted 10 times. So finish the thought, then check in with the comments. When you read the comments, say the person's name, so you know that like, oh, this person said blah, blah, blah. And, like that kind of keeps it going and makes it a two-way street. Little things like that, they're just things you learn along the way, but are really, really important. But nothing will replace just getting the reps in and just getting started. And the sooner you start, the sooner you can get better.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. And I think we'll wrap this episode there. So for people to follow along with what you're up to, where should we send them?
The easiest place is youtube.com/TomBuck. And Heather will be proud of me. If you're interested in my podcasting course, you can go to himynameistom.com/waitlist, and you'll get all the updates when it's ready there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so thanks again for doing this. This was great. And
this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks for also working with my schedule, because I know we had to reschedule like 3 times.
Oh, no, that's nothing at all. Yeah, and it worked out because I did a little break save from recording new episodes.
Okay.
So I did a bunch in December. Then I'm like, I'll take the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's off. So this was perfect timing for me. So
yeah, well, this was fun, and I appreciate your patience. So thank you very much.
A huge thanks to Tom for joining me on this episode. Be sure to check out his awesome YouTube channel at youtube.com/TomBuck, or everything else he's up to at himynameistom.com. As always, this episode of Starting Now is brought to you by Built. At Built, we help you get started online. Whether you want to start a blog or a business, head on over to built.co. That's BYLT.co to get started. Built, your website, built for you, simply. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. Also, be sure to check out the video version on YouTube. You can find that at youtube.com/Jeff Sarris. Well, that'll do it for this week. Again, I'm Jeff Sarris, and this has been Starting Now. I'll see you next time.